Hey, everybody. Welcome to another post-Collab Talk Tweet Jam panel discussion. And hopefully folks were able to participate in the Tweet Jam Live. And the model's always the same. We go through 7 questions around a topic and anybody in the community can participate. But this is new this year where we're doing the monthly. I know we've done some in the past over the last decade. Occasionally there's a video. But this is a new thing where every month there's a small group of people that participate in the community actively to come in and let's just talk through the 7 questions. So very quick introductions again. Christian Buckley with Collab Talk, 13-time MVP and RD, and I'm based in Lehi, Utah. Ragnar.
7 times MVP, Ragnar Heil, based here in Germany, MVP for Copilot and MC5, working at Hans Vision.
Excellent. And Emily.
Emily Mancini, 4-time MVP, based in Miami.
Excellent. And Mr. Overfield.
Hey, all. Yeah, Eric Overfield. I've been in MVP and RD for a while, 2015. How many years is that? 9 or 10 or something like that. 8 or 9. Maybe I'm getting my 10-year disc soon. Yeah, based out of California.
Awesome. Great to see everybody. And let's jump right in. So we have the 7 questions. Question number 1 is always a good place to start. So talking about SharePoint agents, and I guess the title of this month's topic, harnessing SharePoint agents for intelligent collaboration and governance. What makes the SharePoint agents unique compared to other Copilot-powered assistants, such as Copilot Studio bots or Teams-based agents?
I'll jump right in.
Yeah.
The big thing to me is that these are agents that are integrated directly into SharePoint, as the word says. When you go to a SharePoint site, your Copilot icon up in the upper right-hand corner, it links you to a SharePoint agent. Every site out of the box has an agent already enabled, scope to it, but it's pre-integrated. So that's like a huge component to me that makes it really nice. You don't have to go to another tool. You don't have to create anything specific, which is pre-scoped to that site. It's already done for you.
Yeah, I think that it's really lowers the barrier to entry for someone to start creating this agent. You have very task-specific functionality. So let's say you're working in a communication site, you're trying to create something for human resources benefits, you're really creating task-specific functionality.
Wonderful. Let me add another different point. Less hallucinations, because these SharePoint agents are just trained on a very few documents, which you choose as the owner of the SharePoint agents. So it's not comparable like the M65 Copilot, which has access to 10,000 or 100,000 documents, which easily also can hallucinate if there are too many duplicates or redundant documents. Here, higher quality, because they're trained on your document, which you define in your SharePoint document library.
One of the things that when people start talking about, within the enterprise, AI in general, and you start to talk about the differences between the public tools, the free tools that are out there, or even the paid but public platforms versus something Copilot, something that's behind the firewall, that's secure, and the difference between using the two is just trying to help people understand and to be very careful. I know that a lot of the dialogue around AI when Microsoft made public kind of the plans and announced Copilot was around this difference. But I think it's right along with talking about the ethics of AI, and then also to make sure that people understand how the tools that they're using actually work, where that data is coming from, how they're training that model. It's essential for that differentiation.
Yeah, I think especially when we're talking about our company data, this context-aware assistance is what's really important in SharePoint agents. For my example, I often work with intranets. If we're talking about benefits, it doesn't really matter what benefits are available out in the greater world. I only care about the benefits at my company. So making sure that it's scoped to what specifically is available to me is the most important thing that I need from my SharePoint agent.
One of the topics around, remember with the Wave 2 announcements was about a deeper integration of Copilot, of AI into kind of the product. So it's less of a click on a button to open up a window, a panel on the right side and interact with the workspace over to the left. It was more of a, well, sometimes there will be, Copilot enabled features that are just in the native menu, like built into the features. And this is almost like that next step. Whether you have it a full SharePoint intranet, you can now build these SharePoint agents, have it throughout your site in different places to make it a more integrated experience.
Something I want to add is around something that's kind of different, I suppose, is the creation process. So if you want to edit your own, create your own agent, SharePoint agent, it's a really simple, clean process, and you get a fair amount of tools to it. So if you do want to create a very app-specific or tailor-specific, document library-specific, agent within SharePoint Agents, it's really easy to do. There are 3 simple screens. It's not too hard to name it. It's not too hard to generally tell it what it should be scoped to. We're finding more in agents or custom agents, less is more. So really targeting it on the things that this agent should be able to do. Finally, that you can basically tell the agent now what it's supposed to do and how to act. You're providing this system prompt. You can do that over in Copilot Studio as well, or when you create your own custom agent. That to me is actually where I find people are having the most challenge, is creating a really good behavioral prompt, telling the agent what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to respond. And my number one takeaway from that is go to Copilot, have Copilot help you create that. Tell Copilot, hey, I'm trying to create this agent to do this kind of thing, create a system prompt for me, and then you tweak it to match your needs.
100%, yeah. And there's only one disadvantage of SharePoint Agent. If you are a consulting company, you cannot earn a lot of money because they're so easy to use. So you are not able to sell hundreds of days to use SharePoint agents.
Yeah, that's almost like question number 8.
Explaining.
It always feel like question number 8, asked to consultants about
how do you make money?
Yeah, how do you make money with this? But no, I mean, like anything, because that's a valid, we talk about that discussion around, like, is AI really, we're not covering it today, but is AI, a lot of this Copilot doing away with jobs, or is it, I think where most of us land is like, look, it's changing the jobs and roles, but technology's always changing. This might feel faster and bigger, but how different is it really from, especially working for ISVs, you're constantly in that battle, especially partnering with Microsoft with no matter what you build, how cool you think it is, eventually Microsoft will likely have it. So you have to keep innovating. But
yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. That's right. That's the right expression, a rabbit hole. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to question number 2. So what are the best practices for structuring SharePoint sites to ensure SharePoint agents deliver accurate, secure, and useful responses?
I think this goes back to some of the things we've been saying for years. We have to have good content that is regularly reviewed and updated, and we have to have robust permissions. If we have inaccurate content and incorrect permissions, we're not going to get the results that we want. And that's always been the case. I think that we've seen in the past couple of years that AI is really shining a light on where we've been using security by obscurity, and where we've had our messy data is really starting to bite us. So same rules apply there for sure.
You mean a new AI product or feature? It doesn't just automatically do that for us?
It would be really nice, but hey, that's why we're not losing our jobs as consultants, right? We're having to clean up all of that stuff that people have been avoiding.
Exactly. And one of the topics which I am currently talking a lot with my customers is the thing called agent lifecycle management, which I just invented. So it's so important that there is a rhythm, a routine where they listen, I've created my agent and I'm going to care about it. I'm going to have a maintenance job about my agent, even if he or she, I don't know, with sex, gender. So even if it works self-explaining, it makes definitely sense to check it once a month and add some new documents, remove documents, because easily, even if you have only added like 50 documents, some are going to be outdated. So just have a nice lifecycle management for your agent, remove and add content. It's so important, and it only takes a few seconds.
Yeah. It's always worth noting that SharePoint agents, they use effectively the same backend AI of Copilot. So as Emily really said there, I mean, I completely agree with that. It's around permissions and it's around organizing your content in general. But SharePoint agents are respecting the security boundaries of all the assets. So you got to have those permissions set up properly. And I'll go back to the line I use, which is less is more. So some of the best practices when you are scoping your custom SharePoint agents, shall I say, you might want to think maybe I shouldn't have it go or have it scope to the entire document library of 10,000 documents when it may only really be like 5 that are important. You may want to consider that don't give the agent more grounding data than you think is really necessary for a bit to be super tight. And the last one I will quickly add, this isn't fully there yet, but metadata. I know we talked about that for 20 years, 2 or 10 years. As of now, the last I've seen at least, Copilot, SharePoint agents as well, can't use real custom metadata. It's the way that search is indexing data and whatnot. My understanding is, no NDA thing here, but my understanding is Microsoft is aware of this and is looking to solve this kind of problem for us. So I would still argue metadata is still important, at least the important well-known metadata that Microsoft already has provided to us in doc libraries, et cetera. But I would still think that put effort into that. Good metadata.
Well, you're still going to search for things on your intranet. You're still going to do like discovery, kind of everything else. So metadata, classification, kind of all of that stuff, all the labeling aspect, like all those things are still relevant. I was very happy that when, day one, Microsoft, they talked about, out the door announcing Copilot, they talked about ethics of AI. They talked about the security factors, but they also talked about, they used the G word. And Ragnar, I'm proud of you. You talked about, you shared your piece, your thoughts without saying governance, but that's what we're talking about. Like all of the governance rules still apply. And, and Ragnar and I were standing in a booth, last year and a half, a couple times where we're talking with representing an ISV solution. And so many people coming over. It's like, yeah, we're starting to move. We're making our plans to move to Copilot. And we know we need to clean up. We need help. We need the governance tools to better manage the life cycle of and the condition of our content. And again, this is, I've been preaching this. I got involved with intranets in the mid 90s. And it's the same basic, the technology is advanced, but the core principles. And talk to anybody that has like a library sciences degree. Like it's all still true. It's all still relevant.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is now when I watched, for example, the last announcement of MC5 Copilot Chat, a small video done by Jerry Spataro, I think in second 28, he already talked about the relevance of governance. So Microsoft senior level, VP level says, please don't start with Copilot if you don't have governance and security and compliance in place. And that's something what I haven't heard over the last years.
Yeah, one other, this is just kind of a thought, thinking out loud. I don't know if anybody has a thought on this too, but if you have these smaller focused, specifically focused SharePoint agents, like I was playing last night, building out a model around Microsoft licensing and trying to keep it very tightly controlled, very specific information, specific questions in the logic of it, like redirecting any questions that were outside of the scope of that, like how it would do that. So having some fun there. And the idea of that, eventually these agents will be more intelligent and be aware of their limitations and be aware of what other agents are doing, and kind of piecing that together. That again speaks to the need to have a governance model looking at your agents to be aware, like what do we have? What are the different pieces out there? Because soon they're going to get smart enough to know, like, I don't know the answer, but hey, I know these other agents, and be able to go and do more complex activities. But you've got to go and have those. You want to have that smaller point of failure. You don't want to build this massive application that can answer every question out there. You want to have this smaller specific one so that you can then, what needs to go and be updated. But I don't know, any thoughts on that?
I just heard it from a customer. So last week I had a customer conversation that said, listen, Ragnar, I understand the value of agents. We would like to introduce and launch the agents, but we only can launch the agents in our company if there is governance in place. So currently it's difficult the roles and permissions are difficult with agents. Cost control topics are difficult. It's also difficult to find out when agents are failing. So what they want is just a combination of cost control, operational excellence of agents. And to be very honest, I think it's not a very big secret that the cost model, the pricing of agents in Copilot Studio is just crazy difficult. Yes, it's built by messages, but nobody really knows the formula. So you have to go into the Power Platform licensing guide, 55 pages. It is difficult. And here the third-party governance vendors are building up dashboards and reports to control the agents. And then at the end, you will get a monthly report about the agent, of the cost of agent A, B, and C. And then you decide if it's valued or if it's worth to pay for this agent, or if you should rather shut it down.
I know a consulting company that built an agent to calculate the cost of agents. And that's actually kind of genius.
That is. Yeah. I mean, we used to do that with a long time ago with migrations and the cost of it. Like, here's the cost of the software to go and automate it versus attempt to do it out of the box. Here's the cost of your personnel, the number of sites to be moved, the amount of data, kind of all those things. It's like this is what you would save, and you'd see that software was a fraction of the cost. Like those kinds of ROI calculators on this, it just makes sense, especially when the marketplace starts expanding, when you have these pre-built agents that you can go and purchase that follow that consumption model. It's going to be necessary to have a tool like that in place.
Yeah, and back to your point of how important governance is in all of this, I think Microsoft understands that by adding SharePoint Advanced Management to the license for Copilot. They understand that this is a huge part of being ready and prepared for having Copilot at all. And of course, SharePoint Agents is a part of that. So I think they're absolutely arming us with the tools that we need to be able to govern our data and environments.
Yeah, especially, yeah. And Emily, what I really like about SharePoint Advanced Management is that it's not only about this oversharing topics in SharePoint and OneDrive, it's also about measuring the usage and the growth of your few sensitivity labels, which is a very important aspect to be Copilot ready, especially now with this new sensitivity labels, especially designed for Copilot as a kind of blacklisting to prevent that Copilot is going to index this kind of content.
Absolutely.
Going back to your agents talking to agents, I mean, you're talking about the agentic world that Satya and others are definitely visioning, and I see us going there. To me, this is a lot of classic Microsoft. They're throwing stuff at us, trying to get us addicted to it. So we're seeing agent sprawl. We need to be able to control that. We're don't worry about costs. We'll just bill you. And yes, we're going to have to come up with some better governance around just maintaining them, which is going to lead into the next question as well. I mean, how do you manage this stuff? But it's definitely a challenge.
We've kind of crossed the line into that. So yeah, I mean, we've already been talking about that. You need to have a process. So I mean, what are the options today? How are you guys approaching this?
Yeah, I can give a couple here. Well, my first comment is this is a gap. This is currently a gap I see, at least. Some things that people are doing is you can still have some license management in order to really work through creation, editing, and improving these. You need to be a license to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So you need more than just a chat license. That is one way, not great, but it is. Also, the owner of the site is required for approval. So you can kind of control who can do it, but it's not clean, in my opinion. So I really think right now, your org needs just a good SOP. Hey, this is what we're going to do. If you're going to create an agent, SharePoint agent, you need to do it this way because this is a gap.
Yeah, I think of course, to form that SOP, you need to have a really strong steering committee who understands the needs of the organization, cross-functional, so you understand. And anytime you have rule breakers, it's because you're not meeting their needs. So you need to have really solid representation, so you have a good understanding of where those edges are. And then, of course, really strong education, so people understand the impact of where these edges and rules are coming from, these guidelines. If people don't understand what the capabilities are and why you're making these choices for these guidelines, of course, they're not going to follow them. So I do think it's really important for that training and awareness program to come very, very early.
Yeah, I mean, how is this any different than like the guidance around Power Platform and the rapid expansion of that? The whole COE, the Center of Excellence model, you've got the governance body you're going through, you're having discussions around it. You're not trying to, at least not at first, stop people from doing the creation, going through experimenting, trying things. especially if you're in pilot mode with Copilot and these SharePoint agents, like let people go and experiment with things, but do it in a where there's oversight, there's discussion, so that you don't have the problem like was happening with Power Platform. A lot of organizations where people would go and build something that would be like for an individual use or a small team, and somebody sees it, that's great. Let's let the rest of the company go and do that and utilize this solution. And there have been some issues with that. They weren't designed to be, that solution may not have been designed for the entire company that's scalable, and yet people then go in and try to apply it and can cause other problems or not getting the benefit, the value out of that. So having some level of oversight of those things.
But there is a difference, Christian. There is a difference. So yes, I would say yes to you. End user training and adoption change management is relevant for the Power Platform and for the agents, but legally, and now I'm the only one here from the European Union in this meeting, legally, now we have the EU AI Act, and the Chapter 5 is going to kick in on the 2nd of August, and this chapter is about the G word, governance, which means that legally in the European Union, we need to have end user training when introducing an AI system. And this is for me super important because I'm a strong believer that we need this end user adoption change management topic, but now it's forced by law.
Yeah. Well, it was, you always look at where the belt is tightening, what gets cut. Training is always like number one. Marketing is up there as well, and then you like testing, like all of the protective measures are the first to go. But
which is crazy. We've seen the lawsuits. You're legally liable for the answers that come out of it. So if we don't understand the impacts of what we're creating, you're going to have bigger financial impacts than the training would have cost. So thinking it through.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft being Microsoft, of course, they basically start releasing to everybody. I was with a client on Monday, and they said, "Wait, what's this icon up here?" And I'm like, "Well, it's SharePoint Agents." Well, how did that happen? I'm not a Copilot user. So Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, to try to get us hooked, if you have 50 M365 Copilot licenses in your org, they're going to give all of your Copilot chat license people, i.e. free people, up to 10,000 messages, responses a month from your SharePoint agents. So basically, SharePoint agents were activated for this client kind of without them knowing. And so I was dealing with some of the IT people who were like, wait, what? We did what? So Microsoft is doing all they can to get it in front of us. You kind of have no choice. If you're going to at all dabble in Copilot, you need to be aware of this stuff and think through, hey, we think these SharePoint agents are going to be available right away. What are we going to do about this?
What a great segue into question 4. Talking about security measures and governance strategies, what should they put in place to prevent oversharing and unauthorized access when using SharePoint agents and any other risks that come along with the new technology?
I'm going to put on my Todd Clint hat here. And after working at Simpraxis for so many years, I can't not mention PowerShell. Anytime you're going to have any kind of governance, you also want to make sure that you're measuring and auditing for it. And you can check for agent creation events. So it's fantastic that you can call for, see where are these things being made. So at least be checking for them, of course, you can limit the licenses for who can create them, but being aware of what's being made and connecting with those site owners is incredibly important.
Is there? I haven't been watching. Does Microsoft have like an agent COE model, or have they put anything up on the site yet around and best practices for that?
Nothing so far in Power Platform Center of Excellence.
Yeah, I'll have to send an email message to Vesa and be like, guy, come on, you're usually on top of this stuff.
Yeah, all I've seen is the agent creation events and using unified audit log.
Yeah. What we're seeing now, and this came out today in the messaging center, there will be a new agent adoption report in Viva Insights Analytics dashboard coming out in April timeframe. So that's on topic, but this is more an adoption measurement thing in Viva Insights. but not really the answer here to this kind of misusage. So for me, it's please excuse me, the same thing what we're preaching since SharePoint 2001. So it's all about making sure that the right people have the right access to the SharePoint sites. And this can be done now technically much easier than in the past, because now we're using third-party tools which are providing access review. So usually once a month, a chat message in Teams goes out to the owners of Teams, of SharePoint, of Viva Engage communities, and they are asked, listen, are there the right owners and the right members? If not, change the roles. Please add people, please remove people. So access review is going to be very important here to improve the quality and decrease data leaking for agents.
You have to remember that not every feature, every announcement, things that will impact this discussion around security with agents, it's stratified across multiple products. So you have to be watching admin center updates that are happening with like the SharePoint admin center and anything that's specifically Copilot related and anything data related, Copilot related, anything that's out on the security discussions in general. You really have to watch those announcements and multiple lists. It's great when you see it organized twice a year, build and ignite, like the book of news, outlined, but there's stuff that's happening certainly every month, but almost every week there's something that could have an impact on this.
And the important thing is it's not one single interface which helps you. So even if we talk now about SharePoint Advanced Management, this kind of access review is not part of SharePoint Advanced Management. So you need to look for third-party tools, which I prefer, or you just use Entra ID Identity Governance, which is also providing access reviews. But SharePoint Advanced Management, now free, if you have a Copilot license, wouldn't help you here.
And you just need one Copilot license. I love that. People are like waiting for a trick. Is this going to get pulled back and it'll be some greater threshold? But it's like, no, so yes, it is kind of a sort of a freemium strategy to get out there. But they realize like, look, if you have Copilot, you have to have it. It doesn't matter if you have one person or many. And so they made that switch and hopefully that makes it easier for organizations to go in and say, hey, this makes more sense. And we're seeing more value out of this. And we then go and start rolling out Copilot more broadly.
Go back to like the root of the question. You're talking about oversharing and unauthorized access. Let's remember that SharePoint agents are effectively using the credentials of the person who's using it, who's accessing it, to be able to then access the data to ground a response. So security, we've been talking about security. Absolutely. That's going to be one, and auditing is super important. Something else, though, that you might want to investigate, those that are listening, is RCD, Restricted Content Discoverability. Currently, this is a PowerShell thing. But the idea here is you're able to limit what sites can be used by Copilot, by SharePoint agents completely. So when you have to use PowerShell right now, you basically say, hey, this particular site or sites, I want RCD enabled for it. The Copilot license, the Copilot icon's now gone from that site. So that can help with some of that like oversharing aspect of it, where
they announced that.
Let this site have it.
Eric, was it like last fall? When did they announce it? I remember seeing that.
I don't remember either.
I don't know. Time is.
I don't remember as an announcement. It's pretty new-ish.
It's new.
They also had that restricted search, which is slightly different. It's configured over in the SharePoint admin tool, I believe. I think, or maybe I don't remember that one, but it's just, there's things you could do. You could also even set up if you have DLP, it kind of can help with some of your labeling and things, but like now we're getting out there. I think the big ones is SharePoint agents are using the permissions of the content of the SharePoint sites or sites. Let's go back to that. You got to control who's has access to it in the first place.
Right.
And to that point, from governance, SharePoint agents are published by the site owner. If you have self-service site creation on, this might be a time to revisit that governance. If anyone can create a site, maybe you want to have an approval process because there's new training, because there's new complexity to what happens when you create a site. Yeah. I've always been an advocate to have it on, but this is a different level of impact now. So it might be time to meet with that steering committee and revisit the conversation.
One of the things I've loved about some of the third-party vendors around, the governance vendors, is that a number of them have that ability to say, it's like, all right, hey, we'll enable you to do that, but we're tracking, we know that. And then, on a monthly basis or quarterly at the longest, we're reaching back out like, hey, you're the owner of these sites and these are the things that are running. Are you aware of this? Are they still valid? Are these external guests still there? Like kind of all of those types of things. I love that automated where, yes, it can be annoying to get the emails every month in the cycle for everything you own in the system, but I'd rather have that than have to go through this complex approval process for me to get my job done. Like anybody can create a site, but then it's in a managed way and responsible way. And you could even, as part of that with some of the products, if they have completed certain trainings or not before they're allowed into that group. There's smart ways of doing it that are low friction with your organization. I love using that word too. It's like low to no friction templates, process structure. When people, this goes back to your point, Emily, earlier, and I use my Buckleyism that I always use is the more people are involved in the process, the more accepting of the process people are.
Absolutely.
If you have transparency of that, even if they don't agree with like the policy around that, they know that they were heard, understood, and then it was explained to me, here's why you can't do it that way. Here's the rule it's breaking because of our European clients and partners and these rules. This is why we have to do it this way. But when people have those guardrails and they know what the guardrails are, then they're free to go and collaborate how they need.
This is a very interesting point because sometimes, currently I'm in the role where I'm shaping and designing these kind of project and service offerings. I could design a governance Copilot readiness offering for 1 or 2 days. I can also do it for 20 days. The 2 days is obviously cheaper, but then we would work and share the best practices with the customer. So listen, we only have like 1 or 2 days. I'm going to share the top 50 with you. If the customer would pay me like 20 days, then I can talk with each single department and do in a process of democratization and participation, gather all the policies, and then it would come from the company. Yes, of course, it's more expensive, but then all the policies and the values about governance would come from the employees. With the biggest benefit that this would last longer. It would be more effective because now with a very, very small workshop, I have to give it and share it with the customer, but the acceptance level is different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and to that point of reducing friction, anytime you're implementing all those reviews, just embed it in those emails, embed those actions. It's not such a problem for me to click, yes, this is fine.
Right. Yeah.
And people will apply.
Yeah. And you don't have to buy a third-party tool to do that. You can go build things like that yourself. But if you don't have the people or the time for that, third-party tools, a lot of them do those kinds of steps as well. So jumping in, and I know they're meant to be broader questions, and they often overlap. But what are the biggest current limitations of SharePoint agents, and are there any best practices or innovative solutions that we're starting to see that all of you are using, that you've seen clients that have done in a creative way? If you can anonymize and share any of those details.
Eric already said it, and I'm so happy. So I'm going to continue standing on the soapbox. Metadata. Oh my gosh. I'm an information architecture queen, so have to continue standing on that soapbox. I will say that keep building out your metadata. I have heard Microsoft commit to that being in future waves. You can have some creative solutions like using PnP, modern search web parts to present subsets of your documents in pages and then use those pages as sources. But of course, you're still limited to 20 sources in your agents. So you have to be thoughtful of how you do that. But let's say I'm going to keep sticking with my human resources benefits example. You can say, I filtered to a medical benefits page and I'm now using that medical benefits as one of my sources and have those all appear. So you can still get the benefits of it if you have less than that 20. Or use them to go into folders for now and then hide those from the view so people forget that folders exist.
Some other, that to me, that's a big one around just source limit. 20's high or low. It just depends, on how you feel. But it can be, if you're just trying to give a subset of documents, you don't have to create another document library for the 32 documents you. A big one, I suppose, to me is around customization. So for more than a few months now, there's been this button at the bottom when you're editing a SharePoint agent that says, go into Copilot Studio and edit this. And you click on it, it says, sorry, not yet. We do expect to be able to edit these agents within Copilot Studio. I don't want to say soon because I have no idea. It's in private preview is what I've been told. But that would be nice to be able to do. And along those lines, there's no real CI/CD, there's no real GitHub, there's no DevOps ability on versioning control that I've seen. You think it should work? I haven't been able to. Maybe someone else has, but these agents are really simple. They're stored as a .agent file within your site assets or in the doc library in question. If you open it up, it's just a JSON manifest. It's just simple text, let's say. But I have found when I start manipulating that file, it doesn't seem to do what I would expect it to do. So I don't know if that's true or not. It hasn't worked for me, but maybe for other people it has. So that's one of the big ones for me.
I would love to hear the answer. So if anybody has ever edited this JSON file, I would love to see if it's working.
Yeah,
please share with us here in the comments of this video.
Yeah. The last one too, this is a simple one, but it's when you are sharing your agent in Teams. Right now, it only works in private team chats. It doesn't work in channels, which I thought is kind of odd. It says it's coming soon. Microsoft's going to fix that. I don't fully understand why. It's got to be some permissioning thing, but this is just some limitations right now. It's all good. Pretty expected.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're going to be discussing SharePoint agents again in another tweetjam in a few months. I'm expecting major updates, next week that we're as we participate in the MVP Summit and find out a bunch of things and figure out the timeline as they get released. We've got Microsoft Build and then Ignite in the fall. I think there's just a lot of change and expansion to this capability that we're going to see. Well, jumping over to question 6, 2 more questions, folks. With upcoming SharePoint agent features, so OneDrive integration, multiple agents per chat, editable built-in agents, what will have the biggest impact on adoption and functionality?
I think the Copilot Studio integration is it should help. I don't know if it's going to totally help in adoption, but it will give people, particularly the developers of it, a little more faith and confidence that I can make it do what I want. I do think that if we can get those, what's nice about agents, these SharePoint agents, is they're easy to share. And that is kind of cool. It's easy to send out to people. It's easy to add into Teams. I would think that a channel should be able to chat with the agent. That way I can have a channel within some sort of organization that is dealing with our client project. And this way I can chat in that channel with the agent that is tied in maybe to the client data or something like that. I would think that would help.
I'm using AI a lot on my smartphone, and I would love to see a better integration here, especially for, let's say, OneDrive is a wonderful application which I'm using daily on my smartphone. And here, this would be amazing just to create agents on the smartphone in OneDrive.
Yeah, I've not even looked at it from that angle, from the frontline worker that's on various devices, if you're in the browser or whatever, but for mobile, it's going to be a slightly different experience and capabilities. I'm just not aware of any specific limitations there, but yeah,
it doesn't work.
Yeah, all right.
I think in OneDrive smartphone there is no, on OneDrive mobile there is no agent, so you can just use your Copilot general app, but it currently is not supported on the OneDrive app.
I think we've already seen with other applications and Viva, for example, but even Resurgence and SharePoint, part of it is the deeper integration into Teams. So Eric, I'm with you on that. And that's the way that I'm working now on projects. And I'm one of the people out there with folks I work with is stop doing the one-on-one chats, put the stuff over in the channels. This is where we're working on the project. It needs to be more visible. It makes sense that we have then build these agents that are resources within that channel. Just makes sense.
Is it for your customer very important that pure view sensitivity labels and DLP policies can be attached to an agent? Is this a real world customer need?
I haven't seen it myself. But that actually was tying into another thought I had, which is around the agentic world, is making these agents to be more SharePoint agents to be utilized more easily, maybe even at all, by other agents, and that they would somehow know what the agent does, so they know who to go talk to. But then it'd be nice to be able to tell a agent, hey, what you are, you're labeled this way. Anything you do needs to be considered confidential. Therefore, another agent that's calling it would know, oh, hey, this is confidential stuff. This is restricted information. The response, just by nature of it coming from that agent, is labeled as such or categorized as such or whatnot. That would be very interesting.
So the clear thing is we need a governance agent.
Yeah. I mean, we need a catalog of agents, because you can start to see places where if you already have an agent for every site, you've got 10,000 sites, that's 10,000 agents. That could be a problem. Who's using what? And did you want those? And no, we need to shut those down. And then people create their own. So now you got 20,000 of them. Sounds
that
like
has been an
IT.
ongoing discussion, a governance agent. And, somebody phrased it. So what we need is an agent that's across admin center. We need an admin center agent that's up there that can tell us where to go and what needs to be done. So we can say, hey, here's the policy. What do I need to go and touch? So even if there's manual components or automated components, that it can break that down. Yeah. And on the reverse, as part of that, and this is a slightly different direction, but also have an audit path of what was used and where. So it's almost like an agent discovery or audit trail, a breadcrumbs of, here's the various services, here's the different components, where the data is, here's the permissions level for every one of those things.
Like a recall for Copilot PCs.
Well, I mean, it might not change anything, but even be able to report back, be able to pull that up and look at, how an agent goes and works. But I love the idea of, and that just seems logical to me, that if the agent's trying to access, and somebody who might have permissions, but they're in an area where others do not have those same permissions, that classification level, that it would then not follow through, but then say there are other people in this channel, in this conversation, in this whatever, that do not have that security level, so I cannot do this, or provide the results and only provide visibility back to the individuals with the right permissions. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about around that.
I think going back to SharePoint agent features that have biggest impact on adoption functionality, I think the OneDrive integration is really interesting, coming from an intranet perspective, thinking about consuming intranet content and then being able to take that SharePoint agent and connect it with my personal OneDrive content. Think of, let's say, career development. Look at my personal, like I'm taking a career ladder from the intranet, look at my resume. How does this apply to me? What am I missing? And really being able to bridge the gap with the SharePoint agent and have that personalized information, I think will be really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Final question, folks. How well does Microsoft SharePoint agent strategy align with user needs, and what improvements or additions? So we're talking about functionality, but this is more of a strategy question. What improvements or additions would you suggest to enhance its long-term success?
Keep it simple.
Well, on the alignment side, so user needs, users still need to find information, and search has not been ideal, shall we say, over SharePoint's lifespan. And so trying to be able to get to the information stored and unlocked within SharePoint is still a huge user need. And having that agent there, something I can converse with that's in line with working, is kind of nice. I don't have to go load something else. I don't have to try to scope it to something that's already pre-built there. So that would be really nice. Some of the improvements, to me, customization still, to be able to tweak it a little more. I don't have a specific thing that I would want, other than I like the ability of what Copilot Studio does. I'd like to be able to create SharePoint agents that I can then share with other agents to support the agentic world, things like that.
Yeah, I think that context-aware assistance is really powerful. I would really like to see the support of metadata, of course, which we've mentioned a couple times. And I also want to see it come to SharePoint lists. I see we do a lot
We have left that out.
Right? Like business process intake through SharePoint lists. Yeah. And we're doing a lot of productivity, streamlining workflows through SharePoint lists. So we have it in document libraries. Come on, bring it over.
I was shocked that I forgot it too. Oh, I can't believe no one brought that up until now. Thank you.
Right?
That was good. Yeah. So the clarity on that's a huge limitation. SharePoint lists are currently not usable by SharePoint agents. To me, it has to just do a search and how to understand the schema that comes out of list. But yeah, it's another thing. Microsoft has clearly said this is coming soon. They know this is a gap.
I think currently you need to go to Copilot Studio, work with Power Automate, and then loop through all the different lists with, I don't know, custom queries, custom lookup queries.
Yeah.
Awful.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, everyone, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and participating in this discussion. I always love the energy, love the ideas. One of the things I love most about the community approach to this kind of data is like you guys have said some things that validate my thoughts, and other things are like, I didn't even consider that or think about that idea. I love that aspect of it. So that's why we've been doing the tweet jam since January 2012, and it's we will be back again next month. And if you're not already actively participating in the tweet jams, which are always out on socials, whatever platforms, we're multi-platform now, still out on X/Twitter. We're also Blue Sky, Mastodon, and Threads, and post the questions out on LinkedIn as well. So wherever you find it, you can participate in the discussions. But if you would also like to participate in one of these panels, if you see a published topic, like we're towards the second half of every month the tweet jams happen, just reach out, connect with me, and find me out on socials as Buckley Planet, and let me know, hey, I'd like to get more involved with these, and I'll add you to the mailing list. So at least you can see what the next topics will be and say, hey, that's something I have expertise in. I'd love to participate. So with that, thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next month. Bye.